Welcome back to a very special episode of the Vail Interview series. We have an extremely special guest on the show today, none other than Mr. Lear. How are you doing today?
Doing fantastic. Yourself?
I am doing pretty splendid, and I just want to say before we get started here, it is a huge honor to have you on the show, first of all.
Hey man, thank you so much for having me.
Before we get started, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, so hey guys, I'm Lear. I'm the head of community management at AEXLABs and VAIL VR. I tend to manage all of the Discord sided stuff and obviously the community sided stuff. Anything on the back end with accounts, cosmetics, the currencies and anything, that's all my territory. But outside of that, yeah, I'm just tend to play the game.
How long have you been playing Vail?
Playing Vail, it's probably been about, I'd say, 3 or so years. And then I've been part of AEXLABs for just over 2 years now.
So you've been playing the game first before you joined AEXLABs?
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
So what led you want to join AEXLABs, or were you like kind of like invited to it, or was it like something that you kind of like chose on your own?
It's a bit of a funny story because I was playing Vail with an old friend of mine, and we kept encountering this issue where he had fantastic PC specs at the time, but was getting insanely bad lag every time he got into a level. And we reached out, I kind of just joined the Discord and I was like, okay, I'll just reach out to somebody on the dev team, report the issue and see if we can get some help with it. And it just so happened that the person that I messaged at the time was Tropical, but at the time I didn't know that he was CEO. So I sent him a message and just said, hey, look, we're having this issue. We think it might be such and such. And then, oh, you might need to wiggle a bit there. You got into crowd.
Yeah,
there you go. And then I just said, you know, I'd love to help kind of fix it, and he put me in contact with Crazy Ivan, the lead of QA, and we kind of just messed around, and as soon as we solved everything and everything was sorted, I just kind of said, well, might as well shoot my shot. And I just said, you know, have you got any openings and anything? And I originally applied for a QA position. That was the intending that I was going to go to, but they said they had an opening for a community management position, and I had some prior experience with community management stuff, and just kind of went in from there.
Okay, so have you had any experience working for other game development companies in the past?
Not directly working. I've kind of been a part of a few communities where, you know, like just moderator roles and stuff like that, a couple of sub communities, but nothing like directly working with any kind of proper companies.
Would you say that you enjoy working for AEXLABs more than those past experiences?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, no, it's a fantastic job, and that's the thing is, everybody that works at AEXLABs is here because they're genuinely passionate about what they do. There's nobody here that's, obviously that's the downside of some moderator positions across any community really, is some people tend to just be there for the sake of, you know, the moderative power, but everybody that's working at the company is there specifically because they want to be working at the company, they care about the project, and that kind of reflects in the work and the atmosphere. So everybody's friendly with everyone just gets on with everyone, and it's generally a fun time with everyone.
What would you say is your favorite thing about Vail?
I mean, I might be biased, but definitely the community, 100%.
See, what's funny is usually like the answers I get to that question, it's like half and half community and gunplay. So I think it's really interesting because usually the way these questions go, I ask them what their favorite thing is. They're like, oh, it's the community. I'm like, okay, what's your least favorite thing? The community. So it's very interesting to see, you know, different sides of it because there are ups and downs to both sides. So I definitely get each point of view.
Definitely.
Well, speaking of which, do you have a least favorite thing about Vail?
I don't think so, honestly. I can't think of a time, obviously again I might be biased, but I can't think of a time that I've encountered something and it's brought down my mood or anything about the game. You know, every game has bugs, every game has bad apples and everything, and you know, when you game for a long time, as I'm sure you know, you kind of just void those things out. So I don't really have anything that I dislike or like less about the game or the community or anything like that, because everything that I would like to see, we've got planned for the future. So I'm more looking forward to what's coming forward, and there's nothing really to be upset about or kind of feel worse about because it's coming soon anyways.
First of all, you know, Vail has a huge, world around it, and it has a lot of world building and lore. What is your opinion or take on the VAIL lore and world building?
Honestly, I think it's some of the most immersive, and from an insider point of view, every decision that is made with the world building and the lore in mind. So it doesn't matter what it is. It could be something as minor as like the skin that you're wearing with the billboard smiley face on it. It could be a developer skin. It doesn't matter what it is. Every single thing that's created, we have the rule that if it's made, there has to be some sort of lore behind it. So it could be anything of like the elevator that's behind you. It could say something like, okay, it could just be a regular elevator, but let's discuss how those elevators would work in the world of VAIL. And that kind of progresses and shifts how we develop the items and the assets to make sure that they fit in with the lore. So every single thing that is created and every single thing that is in this game is done so with the lore and the world in mind.
And see, I think the funniest part of the lore that I've encountered is I was in the armory with a few friends, and I was pretending to drink the milk in there, and then someone goes, you're drinking microplastics, right? And it was like a huge bombshell that was dropped on me because something as little as a few props in the hub world has lore and like a reason as to why it exists is insane to me.
Definitely.
And it's like I didn't expect that,
And that's the thing is, a lot of places you get in a lot of games, they'll add things with the thought in mind of why was this added, why not? That they don't usually have that kind of reason behind why things are in there. So you'll notice that a lot with all of the skins that we introduce. There'll be some sort of implementation of the lore itself and why it's added into the lore. So you'll never catch us adding something for the sake of adding it. There'll always be some kind of reason behind it. Whether it's like, the blade mask, it doesn't necessarily fit into the lore of the game, but there's always a reference behind it of it being an Easter egg to the company. And if it's something that doesn't directly fit into the lore of the game, it won't be kind of mass distributed. It will be saved as an Easter egg to a smaller number of people.
Yeah, and I just think, I'm just gonna say this for an example, Fortnite. They have all these collaborations, right? And they're trying to fit it in with the story of, it's a multiverse, they're pulled from different realities. And, it doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. Because you have Lady Gaga, Spider-Man, The Rock, you have Goku, and it's like, they're like all mashing it together, and it's one of like the weirdest ways to explain having goofy stuff like that in the video game. So, I may be biased because I've been playing this game since like 2020, 2021, but the fact that like everything has a reason to be there, especially the goofy stuff like the blade mask or my beloved smiley face mask is like, I love it, And I've even noticed that a lot of the cosmetics have like the side, the side logos on them, I guess you would say. Like, I'm pretty sure like on here somewhere it has like the colonist logo or something like that.
Yeah, and the arms, there's logo and stuff on there,
It's just like, it's insane to me. Like,
100%.
I haven't seen like another game that does that. So huge kudos to that. I absolutely love that because every time I see lore, my mouth just starts to water, and I'm like, oh, what is this? So, that it's amazing to me. So obviously, one of the biggest things to happen to VAIL, and I guess AEXLABs, was the collaboration with Habie. He got his own skin, his own like entire bundle. Y'all even did like a PC giveaway. So how did that like start?
I believe, if I remember correctly, I think Habie was previously friends with members of the development team. That's one of the advantages of VR, is because it's such a niche, or I suppose it's more mainstream now, but when VAIL first started, it was always such a niche thing being in VR. And obviously, you had the fact that you've got the niche of VR, the niche of PC VR, and then even the smaller niche of it being a competitive VR FPS game. So everybody inside that kind of sub-communities, they know each other. So you'll notice that a lot of people from our development team, like John Cletus and Tarmac and Elijah, they know people from games like Pavlov and stuff like that, and they kind of are aware of each other in the VR industry. And I think that's kind of how that whole collaboration started, is we kind of reached out to Habie and just kind of said, hey, look what we're creating, we'd love for you to play it, get your input and everything. And everything kind of led on. He got excited about the game, and next thing you know, we're working with him. Obviously, there's only so much I can really say because that's well before my time when it all started with him. But as far as I'm aware, everyone was on good terms, and it was more of just a general friendly approach, and we'd love for you to try out our game kind of thing before it turned anything kind of brand sponsorship deal kind of thing.
Okay, so, you know, obviously, on the topic of him getting his own, like, character bundled in the game, I'm assuming, like, even that, I forgot to mention this, I was gonna say this, even his, skin bundle has lore in it.
Yep.
And like, the Steam description, it's insane. So, you know, it might be, like, a broad question here, but, you know, for partnered content creators that level up in the program, eventually when they get their creator skins, are they also gonna have some lore with them, or is it just gonna be like another Easter egg?
Yeah, as soon as we implement any form of skin, like I said earlier, there has to be something behind it at the reason that it's being added. So, you know, whether that's direct implementation of the lore of like the Rayab and the Colonist, or it, you know, obviously off the top of my head, it could be potentially something like, you know, let's say for example you became an ambassador and you got your own bundle in the game, for example, or your own skin, that we could even go down the route of saying that you're a celebrity in the world of Vail and you're known to Rayabs and Colonists alike, and that it's kind of like a sponsored gun kind of thing, or something along that lines, right? You're known to them. You might not necessarily be part of the kind of corporations like the Habie DLC was, but there'll be some form of implementation of those cosmetics into the game lore to make sure that everything fits and it makes sense why it's in there.
Now, obviously, Vail is a very competitive VR shooter compared to other games on the market. You got like Contractors, Pavlov, tons of Battle Royale games, Pop One, Showdown now. So, you know, I know you said that you weren't there at the beginning, but you know, you've been there for, you said, like 2 years.
Yep.
What was like the goal with Vail? Like, how is it trying to like stand out from other shooters?
I think a large portion of what we want to do for Vail is to make sure that no matter what you're looking for in VR, there is an opportunity for you to find that in Vail. So, and that's one of the things is something that we've heard kind of since the Quest migration, is a lot of people have been worried that we've forgotten about like the competitive community, for example, or that we're kind of straying away from it. And something that we like to reassure, especially the competitive players, is Vail at its core is still a VR FPS game. Everything else is built around that. So even in the social hub here, where we've got mini golf and stuff like that, we'll always have the 1v1 arena. We'll always have the guns at the top of the parkour, and we will always implement ways for that kind of tactical VR FPS game to be implemented into Vail. And even now, there's things that are being worked on, and inside of the company itself, we're discussing how these implementations will affect the competitive integrity of the game. And that's still our ultimate goal, is to make sure that every community that we can get to be fostered in Vail, we can do our best to foster it. So we want to have the user-generated content, so the casual players can come on and make Star Wars mods or Halo mods and have a bit of a laugh with it. We want to have the environment where competitive gamers have the opportunity to compete on a big stage, and they have that direct route to go there. They can interact with the big teams, they can interact with the captains and everything, and find that route to get there. And no matter what your playstyle is, whether it's casually running around and just shooting with some friends, going try hard with a pre-made team of 5 people and giving all of the most detailed call outs that you can, or if you just want to run around and play mini golf, that's what we want to achieve, because VR at its core is that kind of escapism from the real world. You get that advantage that you've got 6 degrees of movement, you can interact with people, walk up to your friend and high-five them from across the world. So we want to make sure that no matter what you do, we are not limiting your ability to do that inside of Vail.
Okay. So you've mentioned that you want to keep like a casual and, you know, competitive scene like together so like everyone can have fun. Is that difficult to achieve at all?
I think a lot of the time people don't realize in a lot of places how hand in hand they will go together. Obviously there's certain things that people will worry are too casual about things, but it will always benefit both parties. So for example, the reality of the situation is if we stayed PC VR only competitive FPS game, I would severely doubt that we would be where we are now. But the fact that we have also started accommodating the casual player base means that we can have larger prize pools for competitive players. We can put more time and money into developing the skins for the winners. We can put more time and money into new guns, into new utilities and stuff like that, new maps, new game modes that could be integrated into competitive play. And there'll always be the ability to have the things hand in hand. So you've got things like the Crest League, for example, is a competitive league, but they play Hardpoint, which was intended for a casual game mode. You know, you've had Scouts and Knives tournaments, which are in a competitive atmosphere, but the game mode was originally created from a casual standpoint. And that's the benefit and the advantage that we have, is a lot of the time these things work together in tandem, and there's never much clashing between them. And it's never a case of this is definitively casual, this is definitively competitive. They will not meet and they will not clash, because everyone will just switch back and forth, and there's always that crossover. The same way, you know, you've got people like Natix, who is well known. Obviously, we're happy to have him on the team now, but he's always been well known for being a competitive player, a high-skilled competitive player. He will switch from playing nothing but competitive kind of scrims for a month, and then play nothing but casual game modes of TDM for a month. That there's never any reason that they could have to be separate 100% of the time. And honestly, it's not that difficult at all to try and keep that balance. I think the hardest part about it is, you know, the size of the team. And we're always looking to pick up new people that could benefit, that, you know, engineers, artists, map designers and everything. We're always looking for new people to join the team.
The amount of detail in Vail is incredible. I can't demonstrate it here because we don't have loadouts, but like the multiple grab points, the mode selector switch on the guns, the IK, the full body IK is the best I've ever seen in VR. Even better than like Bone Lab or Boneworks, which are completely like entirely physics based. I used to think that Blade and Sorcery had the best, but you know, Vail just it whoops everyone's ass in like almost every department, which is, you know, which is in itself a huge accomplishment, even though it's coming from me, a nobody, but you know, it's sort of whatever. So balancing the attention to detail and the balancing of the game itself, is there moments where you prioritize one or the other?
I feel like a lot of the time we won't add things to Vail if we're worried that we're going to have to miss out on something else. So for example, a big one that we get a lot of the time is the detail on the guns, for example. So I think a big one that people pointed out was the fact that guns like the Scar H have the barcode, and you can individually read the numbers at the bottom of the barcode. And those things, you know, you don't necessarily have to have them. People probably wouldn't notice them 99% of the time, but it's nice to have on there, and that's that kind of detail. They go, oh, look at that, they've barcode on there, that's pretty cool. But the thing is, we find ways to implement those cool little features whilst keeping them optimized. And that's something that we always strive to do, is we want to have the perfect balance of optimization so anyone can play, and making everything look awesome. We have to. That's a balance that we always will try to keep. And I mean, we've been doing fantastic every time a new update rolls out. You know, we tend to see rises in our performance on various headsets and platforms, and you know, that's a fantastic team of engineers and artists and everything that I wish I could get to that kind of tier at some point in the future. But they always seem to find a way to make these really awesome looking items with little kind of cost to performance.
And we're on to the final question here. If you could say one thing to either the entirety of AEXLABs or the Vail community, what would you say?
Ooh, that's hard. I'd suppose to the community as a whole, same kind of thing that I always say: be good to each other, be good people. You know, I'm thankful from my standpoint as interacting with the community constantly. I'm pleased to say that there are more positive users than there are bad apples, and you know, and that's fantastic to see. And I want to keep seeing people do that. And that's all I can really say is be good people, be nice to new players. They're the future of VR. They're the people that are going to be keeping us alive and keeping XLab going.
Do you have any other final notes that you want to say before we end things off?
Not really. I mean, if there's anybody that is watching your videos and aren't already in the Discord, feel free to join. It's discord.gg/VailVR. We'd love to see you, and if you join from Gloopy's video, feel free to say hello, tag me, tag Gloopy, and yeah, we'd love to have anyone that wants to join.
And I will have the link to that in the description for all of the Vail socials, so if you want to check all that stuff out, it'll be right down there. If you have nothing else to say, then that should wrap things up here. I want to thank each and every single one of you for watching. I want to thank you, Lear, for coming on and giving us a really special episode of the Vail Interview series. It was a huge honor to have you here.
Really appreciate it.
Of course, anytime. We'd love to have you back if, you know, any other big Vail updates come out.
By all means.
Thank you all for watching. Thank you, Mr. Lear, for coming on with us. This is Gloopy, signing off.
Bye, guys.